My husband and I try to be as honest with our children as possible, but how do we respond when they ask questions like, when will this all be over?
I'm a single father of 2 boys with special needs, and they're doing remote learning now, and they do get some video calls from the school staff, but I'm also trying to work from home, so it's really hard to juggle it all, and I'm wondering if you have some words of advice.
My son is playing in the public basketball courts by himself using his own ball. Do I need to worry about picking up the virus from the ground?
We're usually really strict with our kids' electronics time.
But we were wondering if we should relax the rules a little bit.
My question is to how to continue to support our children's social needs even after the pandemic is over.
Everywhere you turn, you hear about COVID-19. It's even on the kids' channel. As a parent of small children, you would like them to know what's going on, but at the same time, you want to shield them from the harder aspects of COVID-19. How do you find balance?
Dr. Tricia Haynes, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
Many parents are finding it difficult to be honest with their children because they want to be honest. They want to tell them the truth. But some of them, if they're very young, let's say 3, 4, 5, or 6, it could be hard telling them exactly what's going on around the world. How would you suggest that they deal with this?
I think there's this tendency especially with younger kids, where we want to protect them. We think that they're not going to understand what's going on because it is really scary. But what's really important, and this is something that I worked on with my daughter who was 8 as well, which was to really just focus on the basics of the message, and to make sure we're honest and give clear messages. And one of the key things with younger kids is to make sure that we have definitions to terms that might not be entirely clear. So maybe like my 8-year-old didn't exactly understand what a virus was. So I had to kind of sit down with her and explain how it's a type of germ that's invisible and super small and we can't see it, but it's something that can make us sick.
Another thing that's come up is that many people are, quote, celebrating, or at least they were initially celebrating the fact that they were able to stay home. Oh, I get to not have to go to work and so on. But now they are in a very restricted space with their children. The kids are trying to do homework. The parents are trying to do regular work. And how do they juggle the space, the proximity, and the fact that everybody has roles and responsibilities and they're all living under the same roof and they really can't get out much?
I would say there's 2 things to think about. The first thing is maybe we need to rethink our expectations that we can do it all. It's time to recognize that between this meeting and this meeting, I'm going to check in with my kid and help them get on to Zoom or whatever platform they're on to get onto their school-related call. So maybe we need to adjust our expectations of not performing extraordinarily high in both domains. The second major thing that I think is really important is to kind of think through what the priorities in each of the roles are. So, today, normally, if I go to work, I could accomplish these 5 things. But today, one of my top things is this task. And then for my kid, one of the top things over here is one of the priority items is to get them into math, because that was maybe a subject that they had a hard time with. So the idea is really starting to change our priorities, put the most important things at the top, and letting go of the notion that we can do it all. And then, sometimes when we've had it as parents, we're exhausted because we've been interrupted quite a bit, or we can't get to what we need, which is really figuring out a way to take a break. Yeah, maybe too much screen time isn't ideal for my kids, but maybe right now I really need to prioritize taking care of myself so that I can get back into the arena and figure out a way to juggle so many different things coming at me.
And then routines are extremely important as well, even though it may be difficult in the close quarters of a household. But you recommended exercise, time for exercise, for cooking, for homework, for other activities?
One of the things that people don't talk about as much with routine is that some kids can't read time yet. And they don't really understand, usually they have a parent or a teacher leading them through one activity after another, and that's how they understand routine. So really thinking of meals as anchor points within a routine, and this happens before lunch and this happens after lunch. And then again, prioritizing what is the big activity we want to get through this stretch of time and the big activity after this. And then if we don't, maybe we just need to be flexible.
So some parents are obviously very concerned about the current situation with COVID-19, with the coronavirus. But there will be a time, hopefully, when this will be behind us. Can they start making any preparations now to help their children transition into what we would have called a normal lifestyle just a couple, 2, 3 weeks ago?
I think that's a really hard question because we just don't know when everything is gonna, when we're gonna go back to normal. And honestly, we don't know what the new normal is going to be. As parents, our job is to help our kids become more independent and to become kind of functioning human beings. So, one of those things that goes with flexibility and change, which is really helping kids learn how to, like to develop those activities that perhaps they didn't have as much experience with before in terms of doing new things. So an example is maybe my child can now pour their own cereal and milk and have breakfast in the morning, and that is a skill that's going to help me now, and it's also going to help me when we go back to whatever our new normal is.
So always taking a learning opportunity.
Yeah, always thinking of learning opportunities.